W5FC. DigNet every fourth Monday at 7 p.m., W5FC. W5FC.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
And does anyone need to use the repeater before we begin the 9 p.m. Skynet? I'll take that as a no. This is Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray. My name is Tom, and I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a wisdom net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign break very enthusiastically in your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic at this time? This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control. That would be me this evening, and stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on this frequency with a PL tone of 110 decibel minor. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, and what else? Oh yes, live video and audio links are available online. Just go to the club website, whiskey5friedchicken.org. That's W5FC.org right now for the complete list. And remember to tell others about this popular net. You can now check into the net electronically by going to the club website. Look for the Skynet announcement for this evening, and then directly below it you'll find electronic check-ins. Just click on the hot link and fill in the blanks, and you'll be there. All amateur operators are welcome, and you need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. We have general announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope, National Space Society events, discussion topic of the evening, was up, space exploration and space history, the Constellation of the week, space launches of the week, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days, astronomical Q&A, and the 73 round. So what we will do is first I will list the check-ins through the electronic check-ins so far. We have KE5ICX, myself, in Corpus Christi. Yes, I'm not in Dallas, I'm in Corpus. N5LIG, Dale in Dallas. AA5AH, Robert in Richardson. KF5JHA, Chaz, our resident astronomer, and his AstroCat Bob in Mesquite. We have N5BD, Bill in Irving. AG9SG, Antonio in Dallas. K5MCD, Cody in Dallas, and Tony, NT5TM. He's inside where it's warm. Good idea. Okay, I will take short time check-ins. These would be folks that will have to leave the net before we complete. Possibly you may have an announcement, but I will take short time check-ins now over air. Please come with your call sign, your name, and where you're transmitting from. Short time only, please. All right, we'll go ahead and take general check-ins over here. That's everybody else. If you haven't heard your call sign yet and would like to check in, please come now with your call sign phonetically, your name, and where you're transmitting from.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Uniform Foxtrot Romeo, Jacob and Farmers Branch. This is Whiskey 5, Golf, Uniform, Sierra, Gus, far Northeast Dallas. This is November 5, Oscar Foxtrot, Clay, and Mesquite.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Zulu, Bravo, Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch.
November, Victor 5, Foxtrot, Virginia in Fort Worth.
This is Whiskey Bravo 4, Mike Foxtrot, India, WB4, MFI, Ted, Dallas, Low Power.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James in North Carolina.
Okay, we'll stop there. It's a little slow this evening, I think, because of the playoff game. We have KG5 UFO, Jacob in Farmers Branch. Jacob, UFO, did I get you right? Jacob is your name?
Close, Uniform Foxtrot Romeo, KG5 UFR.
Okay, well, you corrected me on the thing that I thought I got right. That's fine. TG5 UFR, Jacob in Farmers Branch. I've got you down. W5TUS, Gus in far northeast Dallas. N5OF, Clay in Mesquite. KF5ZBL, Mr. Bill, Farmers Branch. ND5F, Virginia, Fort Worth. WD4, MFI, Ted, Dallas, Low Power. KG5 Whiskey Victor Lima, that's James in North Carrollton. I'll take additional check-ins. Please come now. Okay, I suspected as much. We have serious competition this evening. I will go ahead and ask if there is anyone over on Echolink or All Starlink who would like to check in. I think everybody is accounted for, but maybe not. I'll give you a little extra time to check in. Echolink or All Starlink, please come now. All right, I'll go ahead and take another round. Anyone, any mode who'd like to join us, please come with your call sign. Phonetically, please, your name and where you're transmitting from. Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and move to the first section of the net, which is general announcements. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These could be ham, astronomical, space, or of general interest to licensed hams. Please come with your call.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
NT5TM, Tony, go right ahead.
Good evening, Tom. The ARRL January VHF contest is going on right now through tomorrow afternoon. Go ahead and rise to the challenge if you dare to try 50 megahertz and up in the dark during an arcing blast. The White Rock Lake Amateur Radio Club Fox Hunt is tomorrow. See WA5WRL.org for details. We might have a UHF and an 80-meter fox out as well as the usual 2-meter friends. Please don't forget that the Afterglow movie discussion net at about 10:30 p.m. is tonight. The movie will be The Creature, sometimes called The Titan Find from 1985, starring Klaus Kinski and some other people we've all forgotten. Most floods will be operating on Saturday or both days next weekend, less than a week from now, for Winter Field Day. The Dallas Amateur Radio Club will be operating from the Johnston Outpost, YMCA, from 10 to 7. The White Rock Lake Amateur Radio Club will be operating from Dreyfus Point on the east side of White Rock Lake from 10 to sundown or so. Where's your club operating? If you do have anything you want to share, recheck with Net Control during one of the check-in periods, and go ahead and share that. Hope everyone has a great night tonight, and really looking forward to Winter Field Day next weekend. NT5 TM.
All right, thank you, Tony. And additional information is available also at winterfieldday.org if you'd just like some general information. But by all means, go to W5FC.org for additional information on local activities, meetings, and opportunities to be on the air and to help. This is K6, Net Control for tonight's Skynet. Let's see, we do have our usual other announcements. I'll go ahead and give them briefly here. I'm trying to run the stream and do the net at the same time. This is a challenge, let me tell you, but here we go. The AMSAT Amateur Radio Satellite Group has 3 nets available to Dallas residents on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. You can check into the National AMSAT net that's out of Houston, learn all about amateur satellites and how to use them. The National AMSAT net will bring the most up-to-date information on amateur satellites currently in use or new ones coming online. You need Echolink installed and you registered. You can find the net under Groups and AMSAT. Also, a live audio link is available on their website, which is amsatnet.com. This net originates in Houston, Texas. There are 2 local nets available to Dallas residents. Both of them encourage active check-ins, so you can ask questions of the Net Control as well as others who are checked in. AMSAT Net East is in Dallas-Fort Worth is Tuesdays at 8 p.m. on this repeater. Tom, N5HYT is the Net Control. All are welcome to check in. However, on the first Tuesday of the month, the DARC Club Night, that's when everybody is going to the website, going to the club meeting, so we use the repeater as a talk-in. On Wednesday evenings, Dallas AMSAT Net West meets at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater. That, again, is with Tom, N5HYP. The repeater frequency is 147.140 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9 with a positive offset. The DARC hosts a number of nets on Monday evening at 7 p.m. You can go to the website and find that information out, or if you're watching this live stream, you'll see the actual first, second, third, fourth, and potential 5th week of nets. This coming week is the 3rd week. It'll be Ham Fixin's net, our 2nd helping. Bring your favorite or new recipes, cooking tips, or techniques. We wouldn't even mind a good restaurant review or two. Just make sure you eat something before the net because you'll get hungry. Let's see, Saturday nights are the night of net, and that's what you are on right now. We had TechNet from 7 to 8 o'clock, all things ham radio related, swap meet, rookies, corners, news information, and ham radio events and contests. There's an alternating net control each week. I understand that Don, W9DE is looking for other net controls. So if you're interested in signing up, it's actually a lot of fun. You only have to do it about once every month and a half. Just drop him a line. Send it to net@w5fc.org and say you're interested in being a net control, and we will set you up. Skynet is from 9 until 10:30, which is what we're doing right now. And then there's the Afterglow movie net from 10:30 to midnight. We will be talking about that in just a moment. Let me see, what else do I have? The Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting on the air is the first and third Sundays at 7 o'clock. Tell us what's going on in your ham world. Club news and information, activities, club meetings, lecture and lab, public service events, information, all of that is covered and your questions are answered. Daily is the ARRL National Traffic System Training Net. That's at 6:30 p.m. 7 days a week on this repeater. Newbies are welcome to check into this training net. And you can do no wrong. So if you've just gotten your license and you would like to know a little bit about formalized traffic handling, that's the place to be. It'll also be a good opportunity to hear who else is on the net. The NTS also conducts an evening net on the Irving repeater, which is WA5CKF. That is 146.72 megahertz at 9:30 p.m. All are welcome to check into any or all of those nets. Now, Tony did mention tonight's Afterglow movie net. Normally this is just my little segment, but I got the whole thing this evening, so we'll just barrel on through. Here's my highly accurate information on tonight's net, Creature, at 10:30 p.m. from 1985. The Secret Service people continued talking into their sleeves and adjusting their sunglasses. That wasn't necessary as it was dark outside and the standard inside lighting didn't need the dimming effect. However, they looked pretty cool as Ronald Reagan's daughter read for the part. The director shouted, "Action!" and the Secret Service pulled their service revolvers thinking their sleeves had informed them of impending danger. And as they couldn't see anything in their sunglasses, the audition abruptly ended. "Sorry, we can't use her for the movie." The detail and RR's daughter left the scene without scoring a part in the new space vampire horror film. The director turned to his trusted colleague who was busy churning out the new script for his movie. Unfortunately, the new script was a bunch of old scripts taken from copies of Blade Runner, Alien, Forbidden Planet, old Doctor Who episodes, and The Thing, all glued together into one 90-minute opus. Total number of principal characters, 492. Join us for a Frankenstein movie of the ages, Creature, from 1985, tonight at 10:30 p.m. And if you think the Ronald Reagan daughter gig was not real, it's true. You can keep up with all DARC events, nets, and activities by going to the club website, whiskey5friedchicken.org. Well, let's see, do we have anyone else checked it? No. Let's continue on with Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas, when you can look through a telescope. This is handled by our very apt professional astronomer. That would be Chaz, KF5JHA. Chaz, what do you have for us for the Texas Astronomical Society?
Thank you, Tom. Good evening, everyone. This is KF5JJ and Bob the Astro Cat. I like that term. Yeah, there you go. Tom is our slide master as well. He alluded to that a few minutes ago. Go to YouTube. Well, to get to YouTube, go to w5fc.org. Click on the link for YouTube, and you can get the YouTube version of Skynet. That's awesome. Anyway, slide master, slide number 1. On January the 23rd, that's in 6 days, is the next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas club meeting. The meeting is held at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas and also held on Zoom. The featured speaker is going to be Dr. Philip Anderson from UTD. His topic is going to be space weather. That's going to be very interesting. The Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas hosts Saturday night public observing sessions in this area. Skynet was picked to be on Saturday night so there could be an opportunity for live reports from the public observing sessions. Now, on the third Saturday, that would be tonight, the stargazing is held at Cedar Hill. Now, it was cloudy earlier this afternoon, but it looked like it cleared off enough. I hope there's stargazing going on there. Do we have a ham radio operator at the stargazing that would like to make a live report? Come now with your call sign, if there is. One of my goals this year is to be at the stargazing and do my segments on Skynet at the stargazing, so hopefully that'll happen. Jupiter is in a great position. The Orion Nebula is in a great position. There's a globular star cluster in Canis Major, just underneath Sirius. That's M41. Those are all different objects that could be observed at the observing session tonight. All right. You can check the TASS website, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas website at texasastro.org for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing sessions. This is KF5JJ and Bob the Astro Cat. Back to the net control.
All right, very good. Thank you, Chaz. And I wasn't paying close attention, but I'll go ahead and ask if anyone has any questions. Please come as you call now. Okay, next up is National Space Society Events and Activities. That's handled by Bill, N5BB. So, Bill, what do you have for us this evening from KE5 ICX? Okay, I believe Bill may have wandered off. I'll go ahead and take additional check-ins, and maybe he'll wander back to the radio. Anyone else would like to check in, please come now with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from. Okay, no one there. I'll go ahead and ask for Bill again. It could be two. He's over on the traffic net on 7.2. That's possible. So let me try again. N5BB, Bill, are you out there from KE5 ICX? Okay, well, he was nice enough to put his stuff here in the script, so I'll just read it for you. This is from Bill. He says, the National Space Society is a nonprofit group based in the U.S. which is interested in the exploration and development of space and the creation of a spacefaring nation. The North Texas chapter of the National Space Society meets at 3:30 p.m. on the second Sunday of each month. The meeting location is Spring Creek Barbecue on the southwest corner of Highway 183 and Beltline Road in Irving. The next meeting will be held, let's see, the last meeting I think was on January 11th at Spring Creek Barbecue. I'm looking at the website. I don't see anything new yet, so we'll be to North Texas chapter sponsors a social event called Space Rendezvous. The location is Cheddar's Restaurant, 700 West 635 in Irving. Everyone is welcome to attend and discuss human activities in space with us. No membership in any group is required. It is nts.nss.org. The group also has an active Facebook page. Just type in National Space Society of North Texas in the search box and request access. If you have any questions about the National Space Society, please contact Bill, N5BB, that's November 5, Bravo, Bravo, at his QRZ listed email address, or at space@byrom, BYROM.net. Does anyone have any questions at this point? Please come with your call. Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and move on to the discussion topic of the evening. As net control, I get to make that decision, and my choice this week is from an article from space.com, written by Keith Cooper. There was a second article. I don't have the credit as the author, but it has additional information. This article is called SETI program is chasing down its final 100 signals. Could one of them be from aliens? The very ominous, interesting question. So what does that really mean, and is it really scary? Well, not really. But perhaps you remember SETI at Home, which ran from 1999 to 2020. Yes, 21 years. Had millions of users all around the world donating their CPU time to downloadable software that churned through data collected by the Arecibo radio telescope in Puerto Rico. In the end, 12 billion candidate narrowband signals were spotted. 12 billion. These signals appeared as momentary blips of energy at a particular frequency coming from a particular point in the sky. David Anderson, a computer scientist at the University of California, Berkeley, and the co-founder of SETI at Home project, said in a statement, FAST, the 500-meter aperture spherical telescope, has been patiently following up on this century of candidate extraterrestrial signals since July 2025. Although observations and analysis are still ongoing, bitter experience has taught the SETI at Home team to expect them all to turn out to be local radio frequency interference, or RFI, rather than real extraterrestrial beacons. But whatever their origin, they represent the culmination of one of the largest citizen science projects ever undertaken. It's taken years to figure out how to properly scrutinize this vast amount of data. Until about 2016, we didn't really know what we were going to do with these detections that we'd accumulated, said Anderson. We hadn't figured out how to do the whole second part of the analysis. There's no way that you can do a full investigation of every possible signal that you detect, because doing that would require a person and eyeballs, added Berkeley astronomer Eric Corpella, who co-founded SETI at Home along with Anderson, and Dan Wertheimer, who is an amateur and electrical engineer at Berkeley. Supercomputer facilities at the Max Planck Institute for Gravitational Physics in Germany, algorithms designed to spot RFI sorted the wheat from the chaff, reducing those 12 billion to 1 million, then 1,000. These 1,000 signals then had to be inspected manually by eye before being whittled down to 100 that deserved a second look. Arecibo had been the world's largest single-dish radio telescope with a 105-meter aperture until FAST came came along in 2016. Because Arecibo collapsed and was destroyed in December of 2020, FAST is now the only radio telescope capable of taking on these candidate signals. If we don't find ET, what we can say is that we've established a new sensitivity level. If there were a signal above a certain power, we would have found it, said Anderson. The scale of the project has gone far beyond the dreams of David Anderson, co-founder of SETI at Home, or anyone on his team when it began in 1999. They thought they may get 50,000 users if they were lucky, but by the end of the first week, they had 200,000 users, and within a year, they had 2 million. The software SETI at Home took the radio data from Arecibo frequency, intensity, position, and sky, and manipulated it mathematically in a process called a discrete Fourier transform. This breaks the frequencies into little bins. Since Earth is moving as is any likely signal source, the software scanned the observation for frequency shifts, called Doppler shifts, Anderson said. We actually had to look at a whole range of possible drift rates, tens of thousands, just to make sure we got all the possibilities. That multiplies the amount of computing power we needed by 10,000. The fact that we had 1 million home computers available to us let us do that. No other radio SETI project has been able to do that. Let me try that again. The 12 billion interesting signals these home computers identified had to be vetted, however, and Anderson admits that in the early years of SETI at Home, they had not thought much about how to do that. Until about 2016, we really didn't know what we were going to do with these detections that we'd accumulated. We hadn't figured out how to do the whole second part of the analysis. The winnowing required a computing cluster with a large amount of storage and memory, which the Max Planck Institute of Gravitational Physics in Hanover, Germany provided. The supercomputer allowed Anderson and Corpella to eliminate RFI and noise, reducing the billions of detections to a couple of million signature candidates. As Anderson said, sets of detections that came from more or less the same place in the sky and more or less the same frequency, but possibly a lot of them spread over time. Once they ranked these by likelihood of being real, the top 1,000 had to be retrieved manually. Corpella and Wertheimer worked to review the candidates and narrow the field to about 100. These were being targeted by FAST. Each spot on the sky recorded for about 15 minutes. FAST has about 8 times the collecting area of Arecibo. The final analysis of these signals is yet to come, Anderson said, but these two papers are the important conclusion of SETI at Home. Is it similar to crowdsourced SETI? Is a similar crowdsourced SETI project feasible today? Corpella thinks the answer is yes. The FAST telescope is already conducting a commensal survey. That data could be chunked and distributed to citizen scientists for analysis. Home computers could process this data on a platform for volunteer computing called BOINC, B-O-I-N-C, which Anderson created and continues to develop. Funded by the National Science Foundation, is currently used by several crowdsourced computing projects, including Rosetta at Home, which calculates new proteins fold in 3 days, Einstein at Home, which analyzes data in search of pulsars, LHC at Home, which simulates particle collision at CERN's Large Hadron Collider. Faster computers and faster internet speeds could allow analysis of much larger chunks of data than could SETI at Home, which started during the era of slow dial-up modems and it made it laborious to download large amounts of data. Corpella said, I think it still captures people's imagination to look for extraterrestrial intelligence. I think you should still get significantly more processing power if we use the SETI at home and process more data because of a wider internet bandwidth. The biggest issue with such a project is it requires personal, and personal means salaries. It's not the cheapest way to do SETI. So what remains of SETI at home? 6 people once operated SETI at home, but Corpella is the only paid staff member now, and he is semi-retired. Now he sees crowdsourced computing as an opportunity to better analyze SETI radio data using lessons from SETI at home. They could include a second look at the SETI at home data. In a world where I had the money, I would reanalyze it in the right way, meaning I'd fix the mistakes that we made. And we did make some mistakes. These were conscious choices because of how fast computers were in 1999. There's still a potential that ET is in that data, and we missed it by just a hair. So it is. The SETI at Home project is taking a second look at 100 notable signals. Researchers are using China's vast radio telescope to gather data and prepare for future surveys. And with that, I'll go ahead and open up the net to any comments or questions. If you have either one of those, please come with your call sign now.
Kilo 5, Juliet Delta Whiskey, John and Coppell.
NV5F.
All right, I got 2. I've got K5JDW, John in Coppell. John, did you have a comment that you wanted to make?
Yes, or a question. Also, check me in. Are they still, trying to think how to say this, are they still allowing people to offer their PCs for computing time? For a while in the past, they had a deal where they would let somebody use their, they would send them data and let their computers, civilians, process their data for them. K5JDW.
John, currently, no. There are some at-home projects currently going on. They are still whittling down the billions of bits of information that came down through the years from 1999 to 2020. So they are taking a second look at, as mentioned in the article, of 100 possible entries or transmissions that were received. And then they may start over again. It's hard to say. They'll have to rewrite, program, and do all that in order to make it work with better internet connections. But the answer is currently no, but the hope is to restart it and do it again with more and bigger, better data sets. Anything else?
And also, thanks. I was just wondering, because in the past they did actually put that out there, and it made kind of like a big supercomputer, letting hundreds and thousands of people, use some of their computer time to help them with their calculations. I guess when AI evolves a little bit, this thing will get better. K5JDW.
Well, they feel distributed computing is still very viable, and they feel that they can still use it because, as the big computers have gotten faster and faster, so have our personal computers. So putting that all together and making distributed computing is quite an amazing thing and quite effective. So I'm sure they will continue. All right. NV5F had a recheck. So Virginia, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Tom. This was an interesting one because I remember when SETI at Home first came out, and a lot of the people who were on the internet were nerds, and we all got real excited about it. And I remember installing it, and it would run like a screensaver whenever you weren't using your computer for a whole lot, and it was idle. It would run SETI at Home, and it would run these really neat graphics of it crunching, like it would download a packet of data, and it would sit and crunch on that, and then the next time you logged onto the internet, it would upload the results, whatever calculations and things it had made, it would upload them. And it was a pretty neat screensaver. It had these really cool graphs of all these signals being processed at different frequencies, at different rates and stuff. It was really cool. I used to just sit and watch the screen when it ran. I ran it for a few years. I thought it was real neat, and I've noticed now a lot of that distributed computing. Some of the crypto mining things now are using that. You can, if you have a real fast graphics processor, you can sign up to earn Bitcoin and stuff by being part of a big, huge mining network. So very interesting. I'm curious to see if maybe SETI at home will make a comeback. Back to net, NV5F.
Yeah, thank you, Virginia. I also, we're all nerds. Probably everybody on here who has been around since the 1990s probably did use that SETI at home as a screensaver, and of course they were getting the chunks of data, and yeah, you'd sit there. It was like an aquarium. You get mesmerized watching this thing work. It was like those background displays you always see on science fiction movies, the more contemporary ones with the computer screens and readouts. That's exactly what it looked like. It was actually doing things. I don't know how accurate all that information was as it was processing, but I suspect it probably had elements of reality in there. It was certainly doing something in the background, but I think the foreground part probably was legit as well, the stuff that we were watching. But it was pretty cool. I liked it a lot. And don't forget, too, if they do this again, most of our computers now have lots of fast memory, GPU memory, for our screens that can also be used for artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence will probably be a major part of all this as well, and there may be an engine that's used with artificial intelligence on this next go-around, I suspect, learning what to look for. So we'll just have to see how that all plays out. I'm very excited, and I hope that they find something with these 100 signals that they currently have. I doubt it, but it sure would be nice. But that doesn't mean we can't start anew and keep looking. The sensitivity level will probably get even better because they had to make some choices, and I'm sure they cut past some stuff that's potentially viable. Maybe not at the time in 1999, but in 2026, maybe so. Anyone else have any questions or comments? Please come out with your call. All right, let me acknowledge Dustin, AB5DM over in Dallas. He has checked in on the electronic form. I'll ask anyone else who would like to check in. Please come with your call sign, name, and where you're transmitting from. Okay, we will move to the next section of the net, which is What is Up, and that's Chaz, K5JHA. Chaz, what is up?
Thank you, Tom. This is Chaz, KF5JJ. The sun, the moon, the stars, the planets. Sometimes clouds this afternoon. That's what's up. Oh, well, we call this segment of Skynet What is Up because it's all about what's gone on astronomically over the last couple of weeks and what will take place over the next couple of weeks and beyond. Slide master, that would be Tom. Slide number 3, please. We've talked about the predicted nova of star T Coronavirus, which may erupt at any time. It is currently at a brightness around 10th magnitude. I just checked it a few minutes ago. You can either check it at spaceweather.com or the AAVSO, which is the American Association of Variable Star Observers. It's much too faint right now to be seen with just your two eyes. T Corona Borealis was supposed to go nova more than a year ago. One recent prediction was for it to go nova on November the 10th, 2025. Well, that didn't happen. Another prediction is on June the 25th, 2026. That's in a few months. When it does go nova, T Corona Borealis could become as bright as the North Star, which is second magnitude. I can see the North Star with just my two eyes from my very light polluted location here in Mesquite. Slide Master, slide number 4, please. This image of the sun was taken on January the 14th from the website spaceweather.com. It probably was the Solar Dynamic Observatory image. The large sunspot complexes on the sun are so large at times that you can just use your solar eclipse glasses to see them. No optical aid, just your solar eclipse glasses to protect your eyes. The sun is near its 11-year solar maximum. We're not quite sure when the solar maximum will occur until after it happens. I presented information on the solar cycle just a couple of months ago on Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 5. The third quarter moon was on January the 10th, so the current phase of the moon is a waning crescent. January the 18th, that's tomorrow, is the new moon. The first quarter moon is on January the 25th. On January the 29th, the moon is at perigee, which is the point moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth at a distance of 365,871 kilometers. Full moon is on February the 1st. Third quarter phase of the moon is on February the 9th. On February the 10th, the moon is at apogee, which is the point of the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth at a distance of 404,576 kilometers. Slide Master, slide number 6, please. Now, looking at the southwestern sky on the evening of January the 22nd, you can observe the conjunction of the moon, the planet Saturn, and the planet Neptune. Now, you'll need a telescope to observe Neptune. Slide Master, slide number 7. On the afternoon of January the 27th, the moon will occult the star cluster M45. That's also known as the Pleiades. A telescope will be required to observe the stars of the Pleiades during the daytime while they disappear behind the moon and reappear again. Slide Master, slide number 8. On the evening of January the 28th, the moon will still be, well, kind of close to the Pleiades star cluster. That's just the next day. And also the planet Uranus. Slide Master, slide number 9. January 31st, the conjunction of the moon, the planet Jupiter, and Pollux in the northwestern morning sky is possible. Right now, Jupiter is that bright thing nearly overhead right now in the evening sky. Slide Master, slide number 10. On February the 2nd, the moon will occult the bright star Regulus in the evening sky. An occultation is when the moon moves in between the Earth and a more distant object like a planet or star. Regulus is the bright star in Leo, will disappear behind the moon at about 7:54 p.m. and reappear around 8:16 p.m. These are the times of the event from Brookhaven campus of Dallas College. Again, this is on February the 2nd. Times will vary for other locations. A pair of binoculars or a telescope will enhance your view of this event. Slide Master, slide number 11. February the 7th is the conjunction of the moon and the bright star spike on the early morning southeastern morning sky. And this is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 12. Now, do any of you out there in Radioland have a question, or maybe you need a fill on some of the information, or maybe you just have a general astronomy question? Come now with your call sign if you have a question or need a fill.
Kilo 5, Juliet, Delta Whiskey.
John, go ahead.
Yeah, hello, Jazz and the gang. Hey, you reminded me of something. Actually, it's a funny commercial where they say, wouldn't you like to be a million miles away or be a million miles away or something like that? I don't think they realize that would put you out in space. Anyway, I was just going to say, for our friends up north, there's a geomagnetic storm now. I believe the peak of it was this morning, but there still is a chance tonight for auroras. If you know anybody up north, you probably won't get much further south than 40 or 39 degrees or something like that latitude. But anyway, just wanted to, I don't know if you could have a section or say that later in the program or not. But anyway, they got a chance of seeing auroras this evening in the north. K5 GDW.
Thank you, John. SpaceWeather.com is a great place to go. I think it's going to be a G1, maybe as much as a G2 event. So, yeah, it's only going to get dispersed out. So, if somebody on Skynet is listening from the northern tier of the United States, they're probably getting a blizzard. There's actually a blizzard warning for North Dakota, so they might not be able to see because of the clouds and the snow. Oh, well. All right. So, as the moon wanes, these words for this segment of Skynet: stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live. And until next time, actually, I'll be doing another segment on Skynet in a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet, transmitting on the W5FC repeater at 146.88 megahertz. Skynet is also available on Echolink and YouTube. Back to our net control. Tom, it's yours.
Exploration and space history, that's handled by Gus, W5GUS. Gus, what do you have for us this evening from KE5, I6?
Okay, thank you, Tom. W5GUS here with some space exploration news and more. Let's see, first thing on the list is the SpaceX rocket has launched a new batch of U.S. spy satellites into orbit. The mission, called NROL-107, is for the National Reconnaissance Office, which is the U.S. government agency that builds and operates the nation's spy satellites. The NRO has not released any details about the satellites for their purpose, or their purpose. This will be the first of three back-to-back missions. This was the first of three back-to-back missions for SpaceX from three different launch pads. Okay, and 4 astronauts from the SpaceX Crew 11 mission made an early return from the International Space Station. The crew, which includes 2 NASA astronauts, a Japanese astronaut, and a Russian cosmonaut, landed safely in the Pacific Ocean. The early return was prompted by an undisclosed medical concern for one of the crew members. NASA has not provided any further details about the astronaut's condition, HIPAA, and the remaining crew on the ISS will continue their work as planned. Okay, and today NASA has rolled out its Artemis 2 rocket to the launch pad. I understand they started this morning and went about 1 mile an hour, and it should have made it to their target launch pad. It's the first time the massive Space Launch System rocket and Orion spacecraft have been fully assembled and moved for a mission. The Artemis 2 mission is scheduled to launch later this year and will send 4 astronauts on a trip around the moon. This will be the first time humans have traveled to the moon since the Apollo program. The rollout is a major milestone in NASA's plan to return humans to the lunar surface. All right, on to Hubble here. New observations from the Hubble Space Telescope are providing new insight into how stars and planets form. The telescope has been studying a region of the Orion Nebula, which is up above us right now and is just beautiful tonight, which is a massive star-forming region near Earth. The observations have revealed new details about the disks of gas and dust that surround young stars where planets are born. These findings are helping scientists better understand the processes that lead to the formation of planetary systems like ours. The Hubble Space Telescope continues to be a powerful tool for astronomical research. And speaking of SETI, scientists are using the precise signals from pulsars to search for gravitational waves and extraterrestrial life. Pulsars are rapidly rotating neutron stars that emit beams of radiation, which are observed as regular pulses of light. By carefully timing these pulses, scientists can detect tiny variations caused by passing gravitational waves. These same signals could also be used to detect communications from intelligent civilizations. This innovative technique opens up a new window for astronomical discovery. Okay, on to space-related birthdays for this week. Celebrated birthdays this week. Shannon Lucid, born January 14th, 1943, biochemist and one of the first female NASA astronauts. She held the record for the longest duration of space by an American and a woman for over a decade. Okay, born on January 16th, 1955, Jerry Leininger, who was a retired Navy captain and physician. He survived a fire and multiple system failures during his 132-day stay on the Russian space station Mir. Okay, born January 17th, 1943, Daniel Brandenstein, who was a former naval aviator and test pilot who flew 4 space shuttle missions, commanding 3 of them. He was a commander of the maiden flight of the space shuttle Endeavour. Okay, born January 18, 1958, Jeffrey Williams, a retired U.S. Army officer who held the American record for most days in space. He commanded the International Space Station and performed multiple spacewalks. All right, that's it for the birthdays. We'll go to this week in space history. Let's see, January 12, 1986. The Space Shuttle Columbia launched on its 7th mission, marking a significant moment in spaceflight history. This mission was notable for carrying the first Hispanic-American astronaut, Dr. Frank R. Chang Diaz, into orbit. The crew also included future NASA Administrator Bill Nelson, serving as a payload specialist. And over the next 6 days, the crew deployed the SATCOM K1 communication satellite and conducted various scientific experiments. The mission concluded with a successful night landing at Edwards Air Force Base, the first for the shuttle program. Okay, January 14th, 2005, the European Space Agency's Huygens probe made history by successfully landing on Titan, Saturn's largest moon. After a 7-year journey aboard NASA's Cassini spacecraft, the probe descended through Titan's thick nitrogen-rich atmosphere, and during its 2.5-hour descent and subsequent time on the surface, it transmitted valuable data and images, providing an unprecedented view of this exotic world. The information gathered revealed a complex landscape shaped by liquid methane, including rivers, lakes, and oceans. This ambitious mission marked humanity's first and only landing on a celestial body in the outer solar system. Okay, and celebrating on January 15th, 2006 mission, NASA's Stardust mission successfully returned to Earth, carrying the first ever samples collected from a comet. The spacecraft's sample return capsule, containing particles from comet Wild 2, landed in the Utah desert. These pristine materials, preserved from the early solar system, have provided invaluable insights into the building blocks of planets. Analysis of the samples has revealed a surprising mix of materials, some formed at high temperatures close to the sun. The Stardust mission has fundamentally changed our understanding of comet composition and the early solar system. And on January 16th, 2003, the Space Shuttle Columbia embarked on its 28th and final mission, STS-107. It was a 16-day science-focused flight. The 7-member crew, which included the first Israeli astronaut, worked around the clock on a multitude of experiments in the Space Hab research module. Tragically, the mission ended in disaster upon re-entry on February 1, 2003, when the shuttle broke apart, killing all on board. An investigation later determined that a piece of foam insulation from the external tank had struck the left wing during launch, creating a breach. The loss of Columbia and its crew was a profound tragedy for the space community and led to significant changes in the Space Shuttle program. Okay, and with that, we will hand it back to Net Control and look forward to Chaz and his jokes and Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. Back to Net Control, W5GUS.
Thank you, Gus. And this is KD5ICX Net Control for tonight's Skynet. I'll go ahead and take additional check-ins. If you'd like to join us this evening, please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, and where you're transmitting from. Okay, hearing none, we will move on to the next section, which is Miss Caroline's Constellation of the Week. Chaz, KF5JHA, you're on.
Thank you, Tom. And thank you, Gus, for saying you're looking forward to the jokes. That's awesome. By the way, Bob the cat, Tom named him Bob the Astro Cat, is about 57 centimeters away from the computer. Sort of acting like he's asleep, but he could wake up at any time and pounce on the computer, so there could be a problem. We'll find out later. Slide Master slide number 14. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent Key, Carolyn, KC50ZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week, almost from its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. That's about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year, out of the 88 total number of constellations. So Ms. Carolyn covered the entire sky seen over North Texas in a year. And in her honor, we've continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. Miss Carolyn's constellation of the week this week is Taurus the Bull. Yes, it's next to Orion. We've already talked about Orion briefly. Taurus is the 17th largest constellation in the sky, occupying an area of 797 square degrees. Its name means the bull in Latin. Well, isn't that interesting? The constellation is symbolized by a bull's head and is one of the oldest constellations in history. It dates back to the Bronze Age. Wow. Taurus is one of the constellations of the zodiac, first cataloged by the Greek astronomer Claudius Ptolemy in the 2nd century. In Greek mythology, the constellation is associated with Zeus, who transformed himself into a bull to get close to Europa in order to abduct her. Wow, that's an interesting story in itself. Slide Master, slide number 15. Oh, now this is what Gus was talking about, the jokes of the week. Now, if you're over on Echolink, or if you're on YouTube, you've got a chat box, and you can reply. Well, you can comment on my jokes. So, yeah, that's a good thing, or is it a bad thing? I don't know. They're usually related. The jokes are related to the constellation. Why do bulls wear bells? Because their horns don't work. What's worse than a bull in a china shop? How about a hedgehog in a balloon factory? I used to be a bull rider. I don't know if you knew that. I was doing really well until that guy from Walmart came out and unplugged the electricity. Do they still have those rides out in front of the stores? Where do mechanical bulls come from? They're raised on a wrench, not a ranch. I used to be a worker on a ranch that kept cows. Yep, I really did. And bulls. Their care was utterly terrible. What do you call when it goes through a door? That would be adorable. And the final one of the evening. What do you call a 4 bullfighters standing in quicksand? 4 bullfighters standing in quicksand? Well, you call it Cuatro Cinco. And this is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 16. The brightest star in Taurus is Aldebaran, Alpha Tauri, and it's long considered to be one of the bull's eyes. The name Aldebaran is derived from the Arabic word which means the follower, supposedly from the fact that it follows the Pleiades across the sky. Aldebaran is an orange giant star, type K5, with a diameter of 44 times that of the Sun. It's about 65 light years in distance and 150 times more luminous than our Sun. Aldebaran is the brightest star than our Sun that can be occulted by the Moon, and such occultations have been observed since ancient times. According to Burnham's Celestial Handbook, Edmund Halley studied the records of the occultation of Aldebaran that was observed in Athens in March of 509 AD. More than 1,000 years after it took place, Halley concluded that the event could not have occurred unless the position of Aldebaran was several minutes of arc further north at the time. From the comparison of his position with those reports from ancient records, Halley found that Sirius, Arcturus, and Aldebaran had measurable changes in their position since ancient times. In 1718, Halley announced the discovery of what we now call proper motion. Slide Master, slide number 17. The Pleiades star cluster, M45, is known as the Seven Sisters. Well, you probably have already heard that there's a name for it in Japan. Yes, it's named after a car company. Subaru. The Seven Sisters comes from the mythological account of the 7 daughters of Atlas who were placed in the heavens to help overcome the grief of the fate of their father, who had supported the world on his shoulders. Indeed, the brightest stars in the cluster are named after the 7 sisters and the father Atlas and their mother. The Pleiades is one of the special class of objects that look better in binoculars than in telescopes. Of course, the Pleiades are easily visible with no optical aid at all. I've even seen the Pleiades from a few miles away from downtown Dallas. Yep, when they were overhead. The nebulosity surrounding the stars is easily visible, but I find that the higher powers, where you only see part of the star cluster's field of view, makes it easy to see the nebulosity, at least for most people. In a 10-inch f5 Dob, you can see the entire cluster at about 20 power with a 62-millimeter wide field of view 2-inch eyepiece. But the dazzling light from the stars makes the nebulosity difficult. Most people like to view the Pleiades this way because you can see the whole cluster in a wide field pair of a binocular-style view, or even in a wide aperture telescope too. You can see many fainter stars with a bigger telescope, but your eyes are probably too dazzled to see the nebulosity very well at that point. However, an 8-inch Cassegrain telescope at 52-millimeter eyepiece yields about 40 power and only shows part of the cluster, yet the nebulosity is easily noticeable, particularly around some of the stars. The entire cluster contains about 100 stars and spans a spherical region of space about 14 light years in diameter. It's about 400 light years away. Slide master, slide number 18. The Hyades, it's also known as Milto 25. The Hyades in mythology were the half-sisters of the Pleiades, the daughters of Atlas and Athena. The stars of the Hyades were often associated with rainy and stormy weather in ancient times, and the name itself is derived from the Greek word that means rain. Like the Pleiades, the Hyades look much better in binoculars than they do in most telescopes, even more so than the Pleiades, since they span a much larger area. In fact, in a pair of 10 by 50 binoculars, you can see the entire Hyades star cluster. Like the Pleiades, they're usually made out easily with the unaided eye. The star cluster of Aldebaran, forming the distinctive V shape that marks the face of the bull. Now, Aldebaran is not a member of the Hyades, but is actually a foreground object about 65 light years away. The Hyades is over twice as far away as 151 light years away. Hyades forms the third closest star cluster to our solar system. Only known cluster that's closer to the Hyades than the Pleiades is the Ursa Major Moving Group, also known as Colander 285, which is most of the stars in the Big Dipper that are members of that. The core of Ursa Major Moving Group is about 80 light years away. Slide master, slide number 19. Mézier's object number 1, M1, is the first object in the famous Mézier catalog. M1 is the Crab Nebula, the remnant of a supernova that exploded on July the 4th, 1054 AD. That's when we saw it. Although almost 1,000 years have passed since the supernova explosion, Crab Nebula is easily seen in binoculars and even smaller telescopes. M1 is easily found in the line between Alpha and Zeta Tauri, the tip of the pole's other horn. M1 lies on this line just about 1 degree from Zeta. Binoculars can show a small fuzzy patch, but even a telescope of 3 inches class, you should be able to see the nebula and some basic, maybe lumpiness in the oval outline that you can see in photographs. Of course, more detailed is visible as much larger instruments as well. Slide master, slide number 20, please. NGC, also known as New General Catalog 1647, is the Pirate Moon Cluster. Dave Hutchinson describes NGC 1647 as a nice open cluster of about 80 stars. It's easy to find since it's about 3 degrees away from Aldebaran, between the horns, the bull's horns. It stands out well in binoculars or even in a finder scope. It builds the lowest powered field of view in an 8-inch Cassegrain telescope, looking at it at 40 power. The Cassegrain reminds us of looking at the Beehive star cluster in Cancer at about 20 power. There is a nice bright pair of stars at the southern edge of the star cluster, the fainter member of the pair having a distinct reddish-orange color. These two stars are probably foreground objects since they're brighter than the cluster stars themselves. And this is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 21. There are a few more Astronomical League observing program objects in the constellation of Taurus the Bull. I've given you just a sampling of some of those objects. The Astronomical League has, at last count, 96 different observing programs, most of which have around 100 objects. If you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pin in about a year from the Astronomical League. Slide Master, slide number 22. And that is Ms. Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, Taurus the Bull. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for the research and words on deep sky objects that I use, borrow, and steal for every Skynet. I also at times use the website constellation-guide.com for information. Now next week we'll take a look at a different constellation. This is KF5JHA. Do you have anybody that needs a bill? Come down with your call sign. Okay, not hearing anything. This is Chaz saying good night in 73. Back to our net control. Tom, it's back to you.
All right, very good. Thank you, Chaz. Thanks for the information. This is KE5ICX net control for tonight, Skynet. Next up is the space launches for the week. This information comes from spaceflightnow.com /launch schedule. We have coming up the second test flight of TBD, to be determined, Spectrum. Not a lot on it. It says Launch Complex 1 from Adoya Spaceport in Norway. The Spectrum rocket from Isar Aerospace will launch on a second test flight. As of December 22nd, the payload for this mission hasn't been announced, so I guess Norway is getting into the space biz. February 1st, we have the QZS-7 launch. This is from the Shinobu Launch Complex at the JAXA Tagashima Space Center, an H-3 launch vehicle developed through partnership between Mitsubishi Heavy and JAXA. Will launch the Mitsubishi No. 7 Quasi-Zenith satellite system, or QZ-7. This will be the 9th launch of an H-3 rocket. February 2nd, Vulcan USSF-87 launch. This will be SLC-41, the launch site, Cape Canaveral Space Force. United States Alliance Vulcan launch. Vulcan rocket will launch USSF-87 multi-manifest mission to geosynchronous orbit. The rocket will fly in the VC-4L configuration, which means there will be 4 solid rocket boosters attached to the first stage, and it will support a 70-foot-long payload fairing. Among the payloads on board will be a geosynchronous space situational awareness program system. That's all it says. I'm not sure if there's a noun in there. GSSAP. February 6th, 7th will be a space launch of Artemis 2. We've been asking about it. This will be from Launch Complex 39B, is in Bravo at Kennedy. The Space Launch System rocket will launch an Orion spacecraft on the Artemis 2 mission, first crewed flight of the program. NASA astronauts Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina Koch, along with Canadian Space Agency astronaut Jeremy Hansen, will perform a lunar flyby during a roughly 10-day mission that will see their capsule Integrity splash down the Pacific Ocean. February 15th will be a Falcon 9 Crew 12 mission. This will launch a 4-person crew to the International Space Station on SpaceX 12. I suspect this might even be sooner. We'll just have to see how this plays out. Astronaut Jessica Meir will command the mission alongside pilot and fellow NASA astronaut Jack Hathaway. They are joined by mission specialist Sophie Adenot, a European Space Agency astronaut astronaut, Audrey Sedanes, a Roscosmos cosmonaut. Hathaway and Adana are on their first flight. The quartet will conduct a long-duration mission aboard the ISS. Following stage separation, the first stage booster will return to the landing site. Then we have, to be determined, the Proton M Electro L launch. This is from Site 81 at Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. The Proton M rocket will launch the Electro L number 5 weather satellite, which will operate in geostationary Earth orbit. Next up are visible satellite packages over the next couple of days. Unfortunately, nothing for the ISS. There are no visible transits, nothing at all. However, Tiangong, the Chinese space station, does have a few passes which are pretty good. We have on, let's see here, got to check my times here. The next one will be January 18th. This would be a minus 1.2 magnitude at 6:53 a.m. It reaches its highest point at 33 degrees at 6:56 in the morning, and it will fall to the northeast at 6:59. Following morning, we have January 19th, 1.6 magnitude. That's at 5:57 a.m. at 48 degrees. It'll be coming out of shadow. It'll fall to the northeast at 5:59. After that are diminishing ones, most of them minus 0.6, 0.3 magnitude, visible even in light polluted areas, but not as spectacular. Probably next week I'll be able to give you some more interesting and better satellite passes. So with that, we have reached the end of our presentations. I'll go ahead and ask for additional check-ins, or if you have a question, please come with your call sign now. This is the open check-in period, and if you have any questions you'd like to bring to the net, now's the time. Please go ahead. Okay, well, we'll just close it out, and I'll give a few extra minutes to go. Let me see here. Tonight, we had 18 check-ins participating on there, including myself. Thanks to all who checked in this evening. Hope you join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. Well, I was looking for net control stations, and I do have some slots open if you are interested, either in presenting, potentially, or providing materials for the net. That would be fine as well. Or if you like to be in net control, which is actually kind of fun, and join the cool kids here on Skynet, send an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussions about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and X, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to the Club West website, whiskey5friedchicken.org, at the conclusion of this net. Till next Saturday night, this is Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray Tom, and I'll be closing the net at 22:22 local time and returning the repeater to normal amateur use. 73, everybody, enjoy the evening discovering the universe. But if you have an insomniac or you just like to stay up, please stick around at 10:30, which is 7 minutes from now. We'll be doing the Afterglow movie net. Tonight's movie is called Creature from 1985, a low-budget film that pretty much looks like Alien, but with a low budget. You get to hear all the great things about that fine film and why you shouldn't miss it, or maybe you should. So come back at 8:30 for the Afterglow movie net. Until then, this is Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray. Good night, everyone.
normal state.
I'm completely operational, and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow movie net.
Good evening, everyone. This is Virginia NV5F, and as HAL 9000 has let us know, like he does every week, it's time for the Afterglow movie net. I will be your net control this evening because our fearless leader, Tom, just led Skynet, and his voice is tired. So, I don't have microwave popcorn, but I do have something hot to drink. It is cold, and what better way to stay warm on a very cold winter's night than to stay up late and talk about a really obscure, weird science fiction horror movie. So what I'll do is I will give the plot of this movie and a little synopsis of it, and then we'll take check-ins. So what we normally do is we'll assign a movie every week, and we watch the movie and then meet here on Saturday night to talk about the movie. We will talk about it in 3 rounds. We'll talk about plot, and then next round we'll go through the list and talk about acting and characterization, and then the 3rd round will be whatever you want, special effects, music, fun facts, trivia, anything you want to talk about related to the movie that isn't in the first 2 rounds. This movie did have a lot of not-so-special special effects, so that might be a good thing to talk about in round 3 this time. Alright, so this week our film was Creature from 1985. And I had never heard of this movie or seen it until Tom foisted it upon us. So here we go. Here is the information about Creature from 1985. It's also known as the Titan Find and just Titan Find. It's a 1985 American science fiction horror film directed by William Malone and starring Stan Ivar, Wendy Schall, Lyman Ward, and Klaus Kinski. It was the first feature produced by Moshe Diamant and his company Transworld Entertainment. It has often been compared to Alien, although the gothic atmosphere and possession angle have also been likened to one of Alien's forebears, Planet of the Vampires. So the plot goes like this. 2 geological researchers from the American Multinational Corporation, NTI, find an ancient alien laboratory on Titan, the largest moon of Saturn. In the lab is an egg-like container which is keeping an alien creature alive. The creature emerges and kills the researchers. 2 months later, the geologist's spaceship crashes into the space station, Concorde in orbit around Earth's moon, its pilot having died in his seat. NTI dispatches a new ship, the Shenandoah, to Titan, its crew consisting of Captain Mike Davison, Susan Delambra, John Fennell, Dr. Wendy H. Oliver, David Perkins, and Beth Sladen, and is accompanied by the taciturn security officer, Melanie Bryce. While in orbit, the crew locate a signal coming from the moon, the distress call of a ship from the rival West German multinational Richter Dynamics. The ground collapses beneath their landing site, dropping the Shenandoah into a cavern and wrecking it. When radio communication fails, a search party is sent out to contact the Germans. In the West German ship, they find the egg-like container and the dead bodies of the crew. The creature appears and kills Delambra when she lags behind the escape crew. Fennell goes into shock at the sight, and Bryce sedates him. When they return to their own ship, the Americans find that one of the West Germans, Hans Rudy Hoffner, has snuck aboard. He tells them his crew was slain by the creature, which was buried with other organisms as part of a galactic menagerie. He proposes returning to the ship to get explosives, but the crew are unwilling to risk it. And this kind of goes on and on. This is a very, very long synopsis. I don't know if I would necessarily want to read the rest of it. But that gives you an idea. Basically, the German guy turns out to be a real creeper. He mostly hinders them from their investigation. The gal that was killed by the alien comes back to haunt the guy who loved her and seduces him. I won't say how, because this is a family show, and ends up killing him, and then pretty much everybody ends up getting killed except for the beautiful couple and the taciturn security lady who's kind of like Ripley in Alien, and I won't go into any more details about what I think. But anyway, those three end up defeating the creature. They try to electrocute it. They think they've killed it, but of course they haven't. And it tries one more time to get Wendy, and then they rescue her, and I think Davison ends up getting killed in the process, and then it's just Wendy and her guy who likes her. I can't remember his name, and they and Bryce, the German guy, gets possessed by the creature. It does have this weird thing where the creature is sort of can be wherever. It just can possess people and use them to kill other people or lure them, and so it does have a different angle than Alien. But you finally do get to see the creature at the end, and it looks a lot like the thing from Alien, and which is not surprising. They figure out how to kill it, and then they get away. So I just don't want to read all this. So anyway, let me take check-ins. After hearing that wonderful synopsis, even if you haven't heard the movie, please let me know if you're out there. You're welcome to, of course, listen in, but if you want to check in, you can tell us whether you think you'd like to see this movie, or if you have any opinions on any of the things we've said, or just whatever you want. The more the merrier. We like check-ins. So if you would like to check in for Afterglow, please come now with your name, your call sign, and whether or not you saw the movie.
What movie? Still in Irving. I saw a different movie with the name of Creature, released in 1985. about an alien creature, but it wasn't in space, and I'm very, very confused. Inside BB.
Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-ray, Tom, Corpus. I sort of saw the movie. I'm looking at pictures so that I can kind of remember what happened that I fell asleep in. And then I'm going to make things up as I go. KE5ITX.
Okay, so far I have N5BB, Bill, and Irving. He saw a movie called Creature from 1985, and he doesn't think he saw the movie that we saw. And then we have K5ICX. He sort of halfway saw the movie. And anyone else, please come now. This is Virginia, NV5F for Afterglow. If you'd like to check in, please give me your call sign, your name, and whether or not you saw this week's movie, Creature, from 1985. Okay, well, this one might be a shorty. I have a feeling some people started trying to watch this movie and were so grossed out by it that they couldn't continue. If it weren't for the Friday night movie watching messenger group, I don't know if I would have made it through this one. Anyway, so, Bill, please tell us what movie you saw and what you thought of it. N5BB from NV5F.
Virginia, this is N5BB. I'm so confused. The link that Tom gave, when I started running it, the quality was horrible. It looked pretty fuzzy and everything. So I just went to my TV and I searched, and I found on Amazon Prime there is a 1985 movie, length is 1 hour and 32 minutes, called Creature. I said, well, it's crazy. It seems like totally different. So the description here, hold on a second. Description is action, horror, dark, intense. And the little couple of sentences says, an ancient alien entity reawakens, hungering for human prey. A fierce assassin leads an elite SWAT team to battle the threat and rescue mankind. Okay? It stars James Marshall, Michelle Go, G-O-H, and John Savage, and it was directed by Tim Cox. It was in English. And the movie started with in ancient history, like 10,000 years ago, I'm talking about plot now, so I'll talk about this plot. A meteorite comes down, and these people in the desert find it, and there is a green, crystalline-looking object in it. And then it says this led to all kinds of horrible wars and everything for many years. And then later there's some kind of research team and some kind of ice very real cold, and some large facility, and they are trying to use this green crystalline rock thing to combine DNA from all kinds of nasty creatures to make the ultimate fighting thing. In other words, they're trying to, it's a war thing. They're trying to use this thing for war. And all the movie essentially is they're out there through this building, going around corners and everything. It's filmed in very dark colors, so it's, you know, gray, shades of gray, which I hated. And they're doing nothing but shooting jillions of bullets. You know, their guns have an infinite number of bullets. And they're shooting and shooting and shooting at it. By the way, it looks like the alien creature. And it never dies. They just keep on shooting at it. It's crazy. It's, I don't know. I hated it. It says like it had nothing to do with your movie except there's an alien kind of creature. I don't understand. Totally confused. Inside BB.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Well, it sounds to me like there were a lot of alien rip-offs coming out in the early to mid-'80s before the sequel came out in 1986. Everybody was trying to capitalize. And apparently 2 movies with the same name came out with a pretty similar idea, except this one, the one we watched, was on the Saturn moon of Titan. But it sounds like it was a similar enough movie to where they're almost interchangeable, and maybe that's why this one has alternate titles. Maybe they called it Creature, and that's what the open title says on the screen, but they might have tried to release it under other names to distinguish it from the one you saw. That seems a plausible explanation. The one that we got the link for was on, I think it was on the Roku channel website, which I had never watched a movie on before, and on here at my place, it was fine. It might have been an internet buffering or compression issue, because the quality was as good as it could have been, I guess, for, you know, the time this movie came out, and the fact that it probably doesn't survive in very good quality media anymore, because I think it was very quickly forgotten. I had absolutely never heard of it. I had never even seen it on cable or heard of it on cable, you know, because a lot of times on cable they'll show, you know, back in the 80s they would show some pretty bad things, especially in the middle of the night. So yeah, that's interesting. I'm sorry that you watched a different movie, but you know, we could do the same rounds on 2 different movies that have the same name and came out in the same year and almost have a, you know, similar plot. So no problem. Tom, KCX, what have you got on the plot of Creature from 1985? Either version, the one Bill saw or the one we saw.
Well, thank you, Virginia. What I was doing, since I kind of fell asleep and I was bored when I was watching it last night, and I kept looking at my watch hoping that they would die sooner, but that didn't happen. So in order to get a refresher on this film, since I couldn't really see it all, is I was watching the trailers for it. And there's a whole bunch of different trailers, none of them in English, which doesn't seem to really matter anyway, because I don't know what the hell is going on. I saw one in French. I saw one in West German. Yeah, West German, which I think is different from East German, but I don't know. West German. That was really interesting. I also found out that there have been 1 million different posters with Creature in the name. I think it's still the same film. I don't know about Bill's film, although it did sound very similar. They have all different fonts and colors and different monster-looking people-ish things going on. There's a whole bunch. It's as though this film is trying to change its identity so that people would be tricked into going and seeing it in theaters a second, maybe even a third time, thinking they're seeing something different. Fine Titan, or Titan Fine, or the Creature, or Creature with a different font, Creature Sonnet 3, Creature Times New Roman, whatever it is, it's different. Maybe just show the movie in a different language. That would be fine. Maybe run the movie backwards so that people come to life. That would be something. That would be different. I don't know. I'm not quite sure what I saw, but what I saw, first it was very dark, hard to see, very hard to see. Plot, very complicated. Didn't understand what was going on. Lots of screaming and yelling. Actors screaming and yelling. Characters dying. Lots of characters. I don't know. I don't think they died fast enough for me, though. But other than that, it was very exciting. Lots of clouds. And then the alien that looked like an alien from Alien. That was fine. And then I see there's a picture of somebody reading a book. I don't think it's the book for the story. But it could be. Who knows? Hard to say. Then there's the Dolph Lundgren character. He looks like the guy, like Dolph Lundgren or the other guy from Blade Runner. Who was that? I can't remember. Roy Batty. He looks like Roy Batty with a bad haircut. So, I don't know. Did that help any? Because I really didn't talk about the plot since I didn't understand what was going on because I fell asleep about 15 minutes into this thing. KE5, ICX.
Okay, thanks, Tom. Wow. So, before I give my opinions on the plot of this, I'm going to hope and pray there's at least a couple more people out there, like maybe Tony. He was trying to give this a whirl between the nets. David did say he might try to show up tonight. I told him we could really use his help here. Maybe Sean has shown up. Maybe the other Bill is out there. Anybody who has seen Creature, even if you haven't seen Creature, we'd love to hear from you. Please check in. This is Virginia NB5F, your net control for Afterglow. If you would like to check in and give us your opinion, or just tell us you're there, come now with your call sign, your name, and whether or not you saw the movie or movies Creature from 1985.
Hello. This is Whiskey November 5, Romeo November Whiskey, transmitting out of Irving, Texas. No, I haven't had a chance to see the movie, but I finally got on your email list. So hopefully next week I'll be able to join the fun. Hello. This is Whiskey November 5, Romeo November Whiskey. Can you copy?
Yes, WN5RNW, I do copy. I was just waiting to see if anybody else was going to check in. Can you give me your name, please?
Roger that. This is Pat, Papa Alpha Tango.
Okay, we've added Pat to our list. Before we go on, for my opinion, Pat, do you think this is a movie based on anything you've heard so far? Do you think this is a movie that you would want to see?
One thing I heard y'all's conversation a couple of weeks ago, and I love the random and odd films y'all pick, and it's just some of them are so bad I have to see them. So I'm looking forward to catching this one.
Okay, thank you. Well, this one is, it's one of those things when you see it, it screams 1985, and it's obviously a ripoff of a couple of successful films that preceded it. It was pretty terrible, so that's probably why none of us, I don't think, had ever heard of it until, Tom dug it up out of some list that Brenda made probably some time ago with all the movies she wanted us to watch. Anyway, okay. Well, let me tell y'all, I will say that I wasn't necessarily bored with this. It wasn't boring in the sense of, dull to the point where you can't see straight. I think Tom was just tired. You know, it was it'd probably been a long week or a long day or whatever, and I was pretty okay with the plot's pacing. It was not very it was not really, terribly original. It was ripping off, it was very much like Alien. You have this big corporation, you have this life form that you find out that, they are sending people back to try to investigate, for the purpose of finding it first so that, whatever company finds it first can, I guess, investigate it and maybe learn from it and benefit the most and know the most or make the most, capitalize on it the most or whatever. It was a very similar idea. So the plot was fairly straightforward. There were these two competing companies trying to go down to Titan and figure out what was the cause of this accident and, whether it was something they could, I guess, like profit from eventually or something. I'm guessing that was the very implausible reasoning behind these two competing ships going down there at the same time. You had lots of people, thrown together in this crew where they're like, there's all these relationships going on and all that kind of jazz where, there's going to be some, like, there's going to be a little skin and a little bit of other things, adult things. But this is kind of a scary, creepy, horror, rated R kind of a thing, so that's kind of to be expected, especially in the 80s. They would push the envelope and see how much, nudity they could show. So you've got the girlfriend that just gets killed, and then she returns as, a avatar of the creature, and she makes her boyfriend think that she's still alive, and then he goes out to find her, and she's in her spacesuit, and then she strips naked, and, so they just like, hey, we got to get a naked lady in there somewhere. So that was cheesy, and, just, what's going to happen. There's all these kind of jump scares, and the guy from the German ship who's the only survivor, he's a total creeper, and, I kind of had to wonder if he was possessed by the creature the whole time, because he was just such a weirdo. So, it was lots of, like, it's like squeezing a really thin plot into, like, a long, long time and having all these reversals or supposed reversals where, the taciturn, as she was described, security lady who I would say is like the wannabe Ripley character. She sort of disappears, and then, of course, at the very end, she saves the day and kills the alien that looks so ridiculously so much like the creature from Alien. And this thing is called Creature, so, I mean, it's like Alien, and then they just one word creature. Not too hard to figure out what they're trying to do here. Anyway, yeah, just predictable. When they supposedly electrocuted the creature, there was sort of a, yay, we did it, and then it's like, and then they immediately send Beth, the last lady, they don't know that the security lady's still alive, she's missing, and they're, go back to engineering, and, they just, like, send her into the DARC spaceship to get it ready to take off, the German spaceship, because their ship's been damaged or whatever, so. And then, of course, it comes back to life and gets her again, and, they defeat it, and after it tries to kill them, like, shows its true self, which looks a lot like Alien. And, of course, Bryce shows up at the end and kicks butt, and the only people left are her and Beth and whatever Beth's guy she likes. They're all there, the pretty couple and the Ripley kind of lady, and they take off, and the end. So, I didn't think it was necessarily boring. It was just cheesy and predictable, and full of blood and guts, and you know, they threw in some nudity, and I wonder about the people who make these movies that almost have no soul. Like, it's like, do you really have a passion for film? You know, you spend all this time and money and work to get these things made, and it's like, who thought this up, and why did they want to make this? You know, was it just to make money? I don't know. I just, you know, it was like a bad plot. I didn't really think it was boring. It was just, you know, I knew it was going to happen, so I wasn't bored. I was just kind of like playing bad movie bingo in my brain to see if all the things I predicted were going to happen, and they pretty much did. All right, so that's how I feel about the plot of this. I'll have some things in the second round about characters and stuff, but anyway, so let's do that. Let's go to I have a feeling it's gonna be a real short trip, as Han Solo said. Let's go to Bill, N5BB. Tell us about the characters and actors in the movie that you saw, Creature, from 1985. N5BB from NV5F.
Thank you, Virginia. I am slightly less confused now. This is N5BB. Here's what I discovered. What I watched was a movie which the main title of was really Alien Lockdown. It was directed by Tim Cox. It evidently was a U.S. and Bulgaria production in 2004. You know, when I look at this movie, I thought, it doesn't have 1985, production values. It looks later than that. And sure enough, it was actually made in 2004. And when I do some research, it said Prime and Tubi call it Creature. But in other places, it's called Alien Lockdown. And Prime, when they listed in their listings on the TV, they listed, and they looked up the wrong date. So they list the 1985 movie you've seen as the year of it, but it's really not that movie they're showing. They're showing the 2004 movie, Creature. Making this all the more confusing, there's another movie in 2011 in Louisiana, that's where it's supposed to occur, called Creature. And there's two other movies in 2014 and 2022 that are similar kind of horror movies called Creature. And there's a 1977 movie called The Creature. So I am totally creatured out. The movie I saw, which again had a monster that looked like the alien monster and had at the end of it lots of little babies. I mean, golly, it looks like a ripoff. It was filmed in what was supposed to be some underground research thing, and so all the Marine troops or whatever coming in to kill the thing are all dressed in what looks like spacesuits, but it wasn't in space. It was on the Earth. And it's all related to this green crystalline rock thing. Like I say, there was a meteorite that came in that was causing all these bad things to happen on the Earth. So there's a little bit of Raiders of the Lost Ark, weird ancient stuff mixed in with this, It's crazy. And in the movie I saw, the main protagonist character, you might say the hero, is a woman. She's a woman soldier that has Asian features, and she's the tough-ass person that's going to go in and ignore all the bad stuff and kill it up. The thing I hated, anyway, at the very end of the movie I saw, one of the guys that during most of the movie you thought might be a bad guy turned out was actually the secret agent in there trying to clear up all the things the bad guys were doing, trying to produce this creature with DNA from various other animals that was going to be the ultimate fighting machine. I'm sorry, it's just too confusing. And it was very dystopian. It was very gray. I hate movies like that. And there's nothing in the movie but shoot 'em up. They just fire their guns, just their machine gun, just continuously, and you wonder, how in the world can they have that many bullets? They never seem to reload. They just keep firing and firing and firing. The creature, of course, never dies. So do they change what they're doing? No. They keep firing on it with their guns. It keeps breaking out of areas. What do? Well, it keeps breaking out of other areas. In other words, they never learn from anything. It's just continuous failure, failure, failure. Anyway, I was aggravated. I didn't like it. Too much monster, too much gray, dark. Just wasn't grainy because it was a newer thing, 2004, but it was very gray and dark. And to me, when I see all these movies that are really dark and dimly, I think they've got horrible production values, and they just make them so dark that you can't see that it's really horrible special effects and really horrible costumes and everything, and makeup. Anyway, I don't know. That's the end of my comments. Too many creatures, and they're all bad. Inside BB.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Good job on solving the mystery of the clerical error at Amazon Prime that made you think this was the same movie. But, you know, the descriptions are close enough to where maybe that movie was a really bad remake of this one that was from 1985. I don't know. Because ours was dark. It had a lot of dark, you know, and a lot of just a lot of dreary, dim. The colors were okay. It had some color to it. It wasn't just all gray like movies are now, or that monochromatic thing that Tony and I both hate. You know, so I don't know. Thank you for your update on figuring out what the solution to that mystery was. Okay, next we have Tom, K5ICX. Anything about acting and characters?
Well, I was desperately looking to find out what I could find out about the characters, and this is what I found out. There's 3. There are 3 male characters. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 female characters. So there's more female characters than there are male characters in this. Just thought I'd mention that. Let's see. There's 1 doctor, I think. There's 1 West or East German guy. Then there's a bunch of other people. I don't know what they were, but they were in the movie. It was kind of dark, so it was really hard to tell much about them, what their hair color was. They wore spacesuits. I saw that. That was quite interesting. They looked a lot like spacesuits that they rented from 2010 possibly, but they looked like they were a little heftier than those. I'm not sure. They had the little lights on the inside so you could tell which ones were male and female, sort of, kind of, I think. And you could see them when they were screaming. So I thought that was pretty good. I did learn something interesting, some trivia. This movie fell into public domain. I don't know how it could do so. I think they've been public domain for 100 years now, but I guess they didn't renew their $10 renewal fee for the copyright, so it went into public domain, and that's why it's got 10,000 different fonts, is because every company in the world that could make a cheap VHS cassette or DVD made a copy of this movie and then slapped their name on it and sent it out. So there you have it. So it became popular because it was so cheap. I don't know if anybody ever watched it. So the scan and versions, and then the wide. Somebody found an original copy of it and restored it to its original wide screen production. Maybe there were more characters that I didn't see that way. I don't know. That's about all I can tell you. The gal who was the security officer, she was somewhat kind of, I don't know, very 1980-ish. I kept waiting for her to smoke and put her cigarette out on the guy's forehead. It just kind of felt like that. So that's all I know. Back to you, KE5ICX.
Okay, well, the plot thickens. I think public domain before it was like 70 years, and you don't have to pay a fee to have a copyright. Your copyright is yours. So I guess maybe whoever made this just made it open source, just decided that they would let anybody have it and do whatever they wanted with it just to get it out there. So maybe that's what happened, because I think you have to kind of do that on purpose, which is weird, because that rarely happens. So yeah, very interesting. The fact that someone might find the original widescreen, because we were watching a 1 to 1.33 version of it last night, which I'm guessing was probably a version like made from a master videotape or something. So yeah, it would be interesting to see it in all its glory, in all its high resolution widescreen awesomeness. Okay, my thoughts on characters and actors. There were a couple of people in this that I recognized from other movies, especially the lady who played Beth, Wendy. I can't remember her. Let me see. I've got her here on my Wikipedia page. Her name is Wendy Shaw. I recognized her from the movie Inner Space, where she actually played a character named Wendy. And then to further confuse things for me last night, there was another actual character in this movie named Wendy who was not played by Wendy Shaw. So I was kind of confused for a while, and I thought, well, maybe this lady has to always play a character with the name Wendy. Maybe that's one of her requirements, is that all of her characters have to have her same first name. But the Wendy character in the movie last night was one of the other actresses. So anyway, that kind of messed me up for a little bit, because I did recognize her. So she did go on to do other cheesy movies like Munchies. That was right after Creature, and then she was in Inner Space, and let's see, she was also in Batteries Not Included. She was the girlfriend of the starving artist character in Batteries Not Included. So she wasn't in the movie for very long, just long enough to leave him and dump him. She was in The Burbs. She was in a movie called Going Under. I don't know. She was in My Girl 2. So she was in a few things that I've seen or heard of. But anyway, I did recognize her. And some of the other people, they seemed like they were the kind of people that you'd seen in a few other things in the mid-'80s. Yeah, characters. The characters in this seemed interchangeable, like, in physicality. You know, all the women were, except for Bryce, she stood out. She had kind of a more edgier quality. She had dark hair. She had a more chiseled, sort of facial features. I think she was supposed to be kind of a Ripley-type character. the other three ladies on the crew, the lady with the shorter hair, and then the Wendy Shaw character Beth, and then the other lady named Wendy. I guess she was I'm trying to remember what her thing was. She got killed. They all seemed to have kind of similar hair color. They were a little harder to tell apart. It took a little while for me to figure out the difference between them. The guys also, they were all like, all the American guys were like dark-haired. They were kind of hard to tell apart. I know Brenda would be like, oh, I can't tell any of these people apart. So yeah, they were kind of hard to tell apart. They seemed a little bit interchangeable as well. Let's see, the acting was fair to bad. The, seduction angle was, ridiculous, but that was kind of what was in the 80s. It was like how many bare boobs can we get into a rated R? We're already getting an R rating because it's gory, so let's just like, oh, and then there's always the scene with the person like, getting undressed, when something dangerous is around. You have to have that in a horror movie too. So, but yeah, characters, there were a lot of them. The German guy stood out because he was German and he was blonde. The ladies in this were somewhere between brunette and blonde. They had that kind of undetermined hair color. But there was a lot of, in the mid-'80s, there was like that big hair that was sort of, it's not really blonde and it's not really brunette. It's kind of tawny. I guess tawny was in back then. Anyway, my thing on these people was there wasn't enough interest in them as people. They were going there to represent their multinational corporation, and they tried to develop some love interest, when they were on their way to Titan, and the one lady was like, I don't feel like I'm coming back from this, and of course she was the first person to get killed, and, they tried to have sort of a love, romance thing, and then the romance thing with Beth and what's-his-face, and they, of course, escaped. They made it through, and she got rescued. But I just didn't really tell them apart or know enough about them to really care about them that much. But they were all okay actors, and it's that thing of, decent actors being given terrible material because they're just trying to get a job, and they probably all knew they were in a bad ripoff of Alien, but they just did their jobs. And the alien creature itself was pretty gross. It was very effective. If you wanted to just be grossed out and scared, I guess it was gross and effective and seemed, unstoppable. Because it could sort of take over people and, use them to lure in the other people and, pretend that they weren't killed. It could possess them and like act as them and then suck the others into its trap or whatever. And so yeah, I guess the alien it did pretty well, but then when you finally see it at the end, it's just this cheesy version of the alien from Alien, which then you're like, well, I waited the whole movie for this. That was kind of a ripoff. So anyway, that's it for me. Let's see. Let's ask Pat if you're still there. WN5RNW. Do you have any thoughts on, after all this, do you still want to see Creature from 1985? Okay, nothing heard. We must have put Pat to sleep or scared him away. Are there any more chickens for Afterglow before we go to round 3? Anybody else who would like to get on the list to tell us what you thought of the movie Creature from 1985, or whether or not you'd like to see the movie Creature from 1985? Please come now with your check-ins.
Whiskey 5, bacon, lettuce, tomato. Bill in Garland.
W5VLT, Bill and Garland. Yeah, what are your thoughts? Are you, did you see the movie, or would you be interested in seeing the movie, NV5F?
I did not see this movie. I came for the popcorn and company, and I was a little late because, you know, I was taking a nap, and I managed to get in for Bill's comments, and that was priceless, actually, when he was talking about the machine guns. So yeah, I definitely want to see this movie, as bad as it is. Can't be worse than the one I saw from George Lucas. Well, maybe it could. Anyway, yeah, I'm going to go after that's over. I'm going to go watch this movie, and I'll probably try to find the one that Bill watched, W5VLT.
Okay, well, the one we watched was, the one that most of us watched was, it's the link in Tom's email. I guess you get his email. And then the one Bill N5BB watched was on Amazon Prime, and it's called Creature, but it's also called something else, Alien something, and it's actually from 2004. So, but thank you for checking in. It's good to hear you, and we're glad we can keep you company. And I know that feeling of sometimes I'll do a Skynet crash where, like, about halfway through Skynet, I will, like, take a little power snooze so that I can make it all the way to the end of Afterglow. So I'm glad you woke up in time to join us. Okay, that is the end of round 2. So we've all given our opinions about things, first 2 things, plot, and then character and acting. Bill, N5BB, do you have any comments for round 3 about either one of these movies? NV5F.
Hey, Virginia. This is N5BB. I'm getting ready to send you an email with a combination of comments, things from Wikipedia, but mainly things from IMDb. And I'm going to... some of the comments I see, the commenters on IMDb, say the following thing about the movie I saw, Alien Lockdown. Quote, "This is what you get for mixing 3 other previously established movie monsters into one creature. The creature or alien in the movie was a strange hybrid of 3 already famous movie monsters. The xenomorph from the Alien franchise, the Yautja, the predator creature from the Predator franchise, and the Brundlefly from The Fly. And truth be told, then it actually worked out well enough despite not being really all that menacing or having quite enough time on the screen. Anyway, that's one comment. Next one is another poor production of the Sci-Fi Channel. Alien Lockdown is another poor production of the Sci-Fi Channel. The screenplay is a mess. There's no character development. The cinematography is awful. And the CGI of the Predator-like creature follows the usual standard of this channel. My vote is 3. And the last comment I saw on IMDb was disaster first rate with 4 exclamation points. One of the crappiest movies I have ever seen recently. Jesus. Creature, also known as Alien Lockdown. Well, don't say I didn't warn you when you one day encounter this movie and decide you're going to rent it, buy it, and see it. Just do yourself a favor and don't do it. The movie is utterly boring, has a total lack of originality, and suffers a poor storyline, bad acting, and utterly uninteresting sceneries. They even put a Lucy Liu kind of woman in the movie, and she is trying to be like her so much, the more she tries, the more she fails. The monster is a cross between Alien and Predator. totally lack on everything in this movie. Nothing did I enjoy, and just started to hit the skip forward button to save myself on the last 30 minutes of watching this piece of garbage that turns seeing movies like this into torture. Avoid like the plague. A big 0 out of 10 for me. So these were the reviews I found on IMDb. So don't watch Alien Lockdown like I did accidentally. I can't believe that Amazon Prime even bothered to put it in their list. And again, the most confusing thing was calling it a 1985 other movie when it was really a 2004 movie. Okay. I've been wallowing in the horrible sci-fi, poorly filmed, no reasonable plot, nothing but shoot 'em up, just shoot the clip, just pull the trigger and pull the guns around and just fire at everything forever kind of movies. I hate these movies. Anyway, be that as it may, good night. This is Inside BB.
Okay, thank you, Bill, for those glowing reviews of Alien Lockdown, a.k.a. Creature, from 2004. I appreciate that. Yeah. So let's see. Let's go to Tom, K5 ICX. Do you have any comments for round 3 for this film?
The film historian on this thing, because I've been reading all about it while the two of you have been trashing your respective movies. It's quite interesting. Let me see if I can find the best parts. The most is bestest parts from Wikipedia here, talking about the film. Let's see here. This thing was Malone added all sorts of Easter eggs into the film. There was things like he collected everything you can imagine from Forbidden Planet. So the race of aliens that traveled millennia ago is really the Krauss backstory. Characters of Dr. Wendy H. Oliver, or WHO, who, Death Slayton, are references to Doctor Who Slayton, suggests a way to kill a creature based on a thing from another world. One of the characters also called the Dalembri, the name of the protagonist's family in The Fly. Originally, the demise of the German crew was not explored in much detail until they got Klaus Kinski cast, and he was asked to rewrite the script to accommodate a major German character, which I guess Klaus was. Let's see, the casting. Due to this film's modest budget, most of the actors were relative unknowns. Patty Davis, daughter of U.S. President and former actor Ronald Reagan, auditioned for the film, but she was surrounded by Secret Service agents, and although she gave a good reading, Malone thought her entourage would disrupt the film's tight schedule and passed on her. See, not everything I say is false. It's very true. There you go. They splurged extra money on Klaus and add prestige to the film. Let's see. His son told him that he wanted him to take the role. Let's see. There was something else in here about the special effects. A couple of the guys, Dennis and Robert Spotak, did visual effects for the film. They were part of James Cameron on Galaxy of Terror. Believe it or not, this is before Cameron made it big with Aliens. Let's see. There was the communications room is a replica of the one seen in The Invisible Boy and other horror films. So there was that. And he had original artifacts from Forbidden Planet that he used from MGM, believe it or not, to decorate the Titan lab. So there's some stuff in the background. The specimens discovered by the crowd during their space travels. Let me reset. They had some films computers were donated by Robert Alvarez from Hanna-Barbera, of all places. And Skotak did the main monster, so he worked on Aliens, I think. So that's probably why that had that look to it. That would be a future thing, but obviously he learned a few things along the way. So there's a bit of a back pedigree to this thing, even though it was a terrible film. I guess some of the stuff in it actually had some legitimacy for some of the people that worked on it, and also some of the production pieces that were actually used in prior films or were inspired by better films along the way. It was filmed in an industrial warehouse near Burbank Airport. No doubt about it. It was a low-budget production. Took about 8 weeks of principal photography, it says here. So there you have it. A terrible film made slightly better by people who could have known what they were doing if they were sober. Back to you, KE5, ICX.
Okay, Tom, thanks for all the trivia. I do think there were a couple other Easter eggs that I mentioned during the watching of it last night. The spacesuit helmets, especially, the whole spacesuit was kind of a sleek spacesuit design, but the helmets especially looked like the 2001 spacesuit helmets, which have been copied in a lot of other movies. The spacesuits themselves were, they weren't borrowed, like, they weren't lifted, verbatim from either the 2001 spacesuits or the version of them from 2010. So those were not, they were not borrowed from anybody. They were actually, I could tell they were made for this movie, or they may have been made for some other movie that was ripping off 2001. I don't know, but the helmets were obviously an homage to 2001. And there was all this talk about people. There was a whole section where they kept talking about, well, take off your helmets, but don't forget your helmets. So there was all this helmet talk, and don't forget your helmets. And I kept saying to myself, yeah, if I were them, I would have thrown in the line, remember what happened to Dave that one time? So don't forget your helmets. And in fact, the first lady who gets killed, she hesitates because she's trying to remember where her helmet is to grab it to leave the room, and she, if she had just left the room without worrying about her helmet, she probably would have lived. But and then there was all this air hose talk about make sure your air hose stays connected. And then I was adding, yeah, you remember what happened to Frank that time. So anyway, there was all this helmet and air hose talk that I thought might have been subtly referential to 2001, especially with those helmets looking like they did. But the spacesuits were kind of a weird gray, kind of a boring gray color. But, they were kind of cool spacesuits. And they did have the internal lighting thingy, and they did seem to be, good for, I don't know, the little window in the front seemed to be a really great place for blood to splatter up. But, and it made me think of my expressed opinion last night about everybody loves the 2001 space helmets, but and they act like they're so much cooler than any space helmet that we really have, but the reason they'll never make a space helmet that looks like that for real is because they have zero upper peripheral, visibility. They would be a terrible space helmet. They look cool, but they would make an absolutely horrible space helmet. You should be able to see, like, all the way up to, 90 degrees above where your eyes are, because, if not, you're going to be bumping your head, or, something that's flying into your upper point of view or upper range of view. You wouldn't see it with those 2001 helmets. So that's my soapbox on those helmets. Yes, they look cool. They are not practical. NASA will never make a space helmet that looks like that. Okay, well, let's see. Does anyone who I haven't called on, I know Pat, you might be out there, Bill, W5BLT, do either one of you guys, if you guys have a comment or anything you want to say regarding anything we've said, or if anybody else has a parting shot on this movie, which obviously had, lots of cheesy special effects that led people to better careers, and unrememberable music. But if you have anything to say about any of it, please come now, anybody with your call sign. Okay, nothing heard. It sounds like everybody wants to call it a night early tonight. Tom, do you have information on our next movie?
And it's a movie with actors we actually know. Next week's movie is called Jules from 2023. It stars, are you ready for this? Ben Kingsley is in it. Zoe Winters, Jane Curtin, yes, from Saturday Night Live. Let's see, Harriet Harris. The story is about a 79-year-old widower living on his own, frequently attends city council meetings. He meets an alien that crash lands in his backyard flower garden. So it is considered a science fiction comedy drama. It's only 87 minutes long, and it made a whole whopping $2 million, so you know it's got to be good. That's it. Next week's movie, Jules, from 2023.
All right, thank you so much, Tom. And your assignment, should you choose to accept it, is to watch Jules from 2023. And Tom will send out an email with a link tomorrow morning probably. And so, yeah, join us again next week for the Afterglow, where we will talk about that. And I hope everybody has a great night and a good rest of your weekend. Stay warm, and we will see you here next week, next Saturday night at 10:30. That will be me closing this net at about, about 11:37, so we're a little early. Everybody can, get to bed earlier than usual. And have a great week, and we'll talk to you next time on Afterglow. This is Virginia, your net control in V5F, turning the repeater over to normal amateur use, 7.3, and good night in V5F.